Today I'm going to tell you all about eco-friendly wedding invitation options. Now, you might first question, why do paper invitations at all if you are concerned about the environmental impact? It's a totally valid question, and online invitations are becoming a little bit more popular, but invitations serve a functional purpose, and especially for those guests that are not super familiar with computers, websites, etc., they might have trouble navigating. I found with my wedding that a lot of the older guests, even just my mom's generation, all of my aunts and uncles, etc., had trouble navigating things on our website, even though it was really, really clear to a lot of the younger guests. So you're gonna wanna have that physical reminder that they can put on their fridge, the RSVP card that they remember to do things with. It's like, I always still tell people to have an RSVP card, even if they're doing RSVPs online, because it reminds people that they still have to do it. It's an extra thing that draws attention to it, because if you put it on an invitation, it might get overlooked a little bit. Whereas you need to have those special circumstances and things that they need to actually take action on as a separate reminder. So yes, of course, I'm a little bit biased, but I do think that a paper invitation still serves a functional purpose. So let's talk about how we can reduce our environmental impact. So first of all, most luxury papers are going to be recycled to some extent. My house stock is actually an eggshell stock, and it's recycled up to 50%. So it's a pretty good ratio. A lot of less luxurious papers and cheaper papers that you might find at a local craft store or something might not have that recycled content. But for the most part, wedding invitation, like true wedding invitation papers, are going to have a lot of recycled content. If you want to up that a little bit, you can use what's called cotton paper. And I have that over here. Got my trusty setup so you can see the close-ups. This is cotton paper. It's perfect for letterpress printing, and I have a video that I'll link in the corner about different printing methods as well, because that's obviously part of this whole conversation. So if you use cotton paper, it's going to be better for the environment. It's completely tree-free in most cases and doesn't have that same environmental impact as other types of paper. You can also go with handmade paper, which we all love because it's got gorgeous texture, and what's called a deckled edge, which is a naturally uneven edge because they're made in a mold. So if you are environmentally friendly and you like kind of natural elements, this is actually going to give you a really beautiful natural feel as well. It comes in lots of different colors, and all of them have that texture, and they'll have little imperfections. You can also purchase handmade paper that has flowers or seeds in it. So this is really, really, really beautiful. And here's an example. This is an example of one that actually has seeds made into the paper. So you could plant this paper after receiving it, which is just such a fun little vibe. You could do something where you find your favorite plants and get seed paper made with those. And then your guests can plant it afterward and have a tree or something to remember your wedding invitations by. This one you're going to need to use letterpress printing or find a specialty printer who can print on it, because it is going to be a little bit more difficult with all of this natural texture. Another option is to do an online RSVP. I did say it's still useful to have a card to remind people how to do it, where to do it, as opposed to cramming that information on the invitation where they might miss it. If you have a couple of older guests you're worried about, you could send them a traditional RSVP or just call them to get their RSVP and fill it in online for them. So typically you have an RSVP card and an envelope. You then have to put postage on the envelope, and then they mail it back to you. So what you could do instead is just have a card, cut out that envelope entirely, as well as cutting out that postage, and just have your website where they need to RSVP, as well as the date they need to RSVP by on that card. You could make this smaller. Sometimes I just make it like a little tag and tie it around the invitation, for instance, to cut down on paper usage as well. I also love to do a postcard RSVP. It won't cut down on the postage, but it will cut down on the envelope, as well as the printing that's involved in getting that return address on the envelope as well. I don't like doing postcards for the invitation or say the date itself, because by the time it gets to your guests, it's going to be all torn up by the mail. The US postal system is not that great. But if you do it for an RSVP, it's just going to come back to you and be a little bit messy when it comes back to you, but your guest is never going to see it in that state. You'll still need to do the postage, but it's 35 cents as opposed to currently 55 cents for a regular stamp. Another great tip is to just use the back of your wedding invitations. It's a great place for your website. if you want to put any additional information, accommodations. If you do have like a map, for instance, I love to put all your details on the back of a map card, as well as that's a great place for the online RSVP. If you put it on the invitation or save the date itself, it might get lost, but putting it on the back is a great way to reuse paper and save space, as well as potentially save postage. Of course, you can always forgo paper entirely for your wedding invitations. There's a million different materials that you can print on. Spoonflower is a company that prints on fabric. I've done some linen wedding invitations that we printed here in-house, which were really cool. You can print on velvet, you can print on leather. There's a million different things you can do. All of these are gonna have their own sustainability factors. For instance, we've got wood invitations, probably just as bad as paper. And then acrylic invitations are really popular. I have a video, I'll link in the corner on these, but of course, plastic is not gonna be good for the environment either. So if that's important to you, make sure you talk to your designer and explore options. Heck, I would find a way to print on recycled aluminum cans if you really wanted me to. Just tell your designer or whoever you're working with that sustainability is important to you, and they'll be able to go over some of those options with you and customize some things for you. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what questions you have in the comments, and check out some of our videos on invitation papers and invitation print methods while you're here to learn a little bit more about those things.